Okay, we are live. We are live with Brother Metamorphosis, aka Neil Frazier. And we have yet another dynamic show. I hope you can hear me, brother. I hope you can hear
Yeah,
me.
I can hear you
Okay,
now.
good.
At
Everything.
first, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, when the music was playing, it kind of, blocked me out. But yeah,
That
we're
kind of
live
threw
now.
me off because I normally hear the music, but I didn't hear the music because
Oh,
I
okay.
enjoy that. I enjoy that entry music too. That kind of get me pumped.
Like you're doing the ring walk.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. I was had to take care of some business.
I know that.
I just slid into third of the home base, so I made it in time. I did a
Oh,
little
good.
live
Yeah,
show earlier, and I'm looking forward to this.
yeah. Well, I know you're always
And
on
let it
time.
let it roll, brother. Talk to it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad to be with you again, Brother Lance, on Monday. So much going on in the world.
Yes.
Greetings to everyone under the sound of my voice. I'm a little, I had to take some of that syrup. My throat is a little sore. The weather changed, but of course, I'm still going to go through with the presentation today because as we were talking, the lion
Mm-hmm.
of Burkina Faso has roared, and boy, let me tell you. This is something that's a breath of fresh air for the world. Because when you have,
Worldwide.
like we were talking, when you have someone with a pure spirit, then it changes the whole trajectory of how, because you can't live in a
Yes.
world without hope. You just can't. And people have to believe,
Exactly.
because what happens is you get in a situation where, okay, we know that morality has been thrown out the door. We know this. But at the same
Yes.
time, we are supposed to live according to Meatan laws. So to see someone actually stand up and manifest this, and we all know that this game is as old as our contact with colonial powers.
Tell
Is
me about
that
it.
and the only way that this is ever going to be solved, and it made me think about something Dr. Amos Wilson in his book, The Blueprint for Black Power, is that you can't be afraid, okay, to say, this is what we want, this is what we're willing to do. And, in the world that we live in today, you, especially at that level, when
Yes.
you're going to have these Luciferians coming at you, how many, 19, 20 attempts or something like that?
Yeah, 20 attempts.
That's insane.
20.
And that is insane. And see, that in itself shows, okay, that you don't have, and then I was reading where he had this metaphysical brother that is a bodyguard of him.
Mm-hmm.
That's dealing in the ancient arts of our people.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's just so amazing. But another great banner, brother.
Thank you, brother.
I really like that banner because, yeah, and this is what it is right here. Okay, this is exactly what it is: divide and conquer. How Luciferians control Black progress. Now, one of the things that really was heavy on my heart about this is that this is nothing new. Okay, the only difference now is that now that everything is in the open, okay, no matter how much you try to go back to 100 years ago, it's clear that this younger generation is ready to pick up the mantle. Okay, and this is very refreshing because for as long as we've had contact with them, they have always not just threatened, they have killed our people. They have killed our leaders on both continents.
Yep.
And not only that, this is gangsterism, brother.
To the max.
It's just like when they say, okay, well, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Well, what if Caesar stole everything from you first? Are you supposed to, if you take it back, give something to him? No. No.
That's right. It's not
The
his in the
other
first
thing,
place.
huh?
It's not his in the first place.
It's not his in the first place. I remember a few years ago, you told me something that's very similar to that concept, that if somebody took something and you went back or borrowed something.
Borrowed a tool.
Yeah, borrowed
And they
too.
kept it so long. Right. They felt it was there.
See, and that's the thing, right? And so now that the true spirit of the lion has roared and is coming forth, and it's funny, when you stand up for something that you know is right for the people you serve, you're going to get back. You know what I mean? People are going to come to your aid, man, because as bad and as poor as our leaders are in this country, you still have people that know the difference between right and wrong. Okay, even we teach children the difference between right and wrong.
Yes.
So what's your excuse? But today we're gonna keeping with that spirit. We're gonna deep dive into a topic that's very, very important. And again, this is something that is a breath of fresh air, but we still have to examine a lot of the things that still exist, that now that we have a blueprint, okay, and we know that we are capable of coming together and accomplishing this when we choose the right people to lead and not let other people choose your leaders. And then the other thing is, he's surrounded by all these cowards or that are used to the fiat that they get from the Luciferians. And so, it's just a situation where, yeah, if you have to go outside, unfortunately, of your region to get people to stand with you, then so be it. And I was glad to see that, because one of the things that our people do is they stifle us. Oh, look, he's trying to go over there to do this. Yeah. If you're not going to help, what you think I'm going to do? Just sit here and say, oh, I'm not going to get any help from so-and-so or whoever, and then stifle my purpose in life? No. I'm going to find who I need. And that's one thing I admire about you, brother, is that you have the ability to do that. And that's something that a lot of particularly our men, because a lot of our Black women have this ability to see shit and then move on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so we get okey-doked a lot. But we're going to discuss the 9 areas of human activity, okay, that they use this tactic of divide and conquer, and how they control Black progress. Now, first, I'm going to give a definition of control. Lance, if you would put that picture of control up there for me that says control. This is, and we're going to kind of deep dive into this, because the word control means the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. A group of individuals use as a standard or comparison. So in other words, yes. In other words, if someone is controlling the narratives by which you live by, then it's very hard to meet other people's standards. It's very hard to do that because there's so many different factors involved. So
Yes.
now with this in mind, and we're looking at this word control, and we know where the control is coming from, we're going to deal with the 9 areas of human activity. As a point of reference, Neely Fuller and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talked about these 9 areas of human activity. But we're going to go into a direction with the new things that are happening in 2025 to kind of bring this out in the spotlight. So it's economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. So we're also going to use some definitions to help us work through this as we look at this. But when you look at this symbol, one of the things that I get, maybe other people will get something different looking at it, is there is some type of energy force emitting from that eye, or that, where they have surveillance in the skies or wherever they have it, that actually, keep you under constant surveillance and spotlight. And that's another form of control when you feel like you don't have your freedom. So what we're going to do is we're going to define a few things before we get into the 9 areas of human activity. The first one is propaganda. Okay, and propaganda is the falsification of intentions, which are basically rooted in lies and deceptions. It also gives information, especially of a misleading nature, that is used to promote or publicize a particular cause or point of view. And this is extremely, extremely important. And we'll look at the different avenues that this is done. We all know how it's done, but we'll kind of talk about it a little bit and kind of, bring out the title so we can have a good discussion about this. The other definition of propaganda is the power to define life through narratives and our inability to challenge them through Black lens. The other thing they use on us, and they've used this very, very effectively. In fact, this is still used today very effectively, is classification. So the definition of classification is the process of classifying something according to shared qualities or characteristics. Okay, so when we're classified, then we're classified based on our similar qualities and characteristics. And in fact, we're going to go to the Willie Lynch letter to show how this is accomplished, because believe it or not, his prediction was spot on. He said that if this was done effectively, that the effects could last between 300 to 1,000 years. And boy, I tell you, you readily see this playing out, but I have to give our people credit, because too many times we want to bang each other in the head, but our people have withstood a lot of blows. And so, but there are 4 types of classification. The first one is geographical, which is just the system's ways of grouping and organizing location-based data, so that they may be compared with other location-based data. So in other words, they want to compare what the people in one region or one location that have the same qualities and characteristics that you have to the ones who live, say, in a Kibalon. And see, this is why they have been so effective with this divide and conquer strategy, because it has worked for them. We still have a large percentage of our people not comprehending the total picture. And I remember Dr. Amos Wilson said, in order for 8% of the world's population to rule over the other 92%, by necessity, there has to be at least 40% of the people they're ruling over that is in collusion with this ideology. And that is absolutely 100%, 150% correct. Okay, so we have to decide, okay, if we're going to move forward based on race, nationality, or a culture, okay? And all three of those things are significant in the way that the Luciferians have been able to control Black progress, because if you're going to just deal with race, there's only one race, the Black race, okay? So let's stop playing these little games, because people don't want to face the reality of history and genetics. You know, we way beyond that now, okay? Because we know that this destruction is being done on all fronts now, okay? And to our people's credit, we refuse to be controlled anymore. And then there's the chronological classification, where data are grouped according to time. So again, this is why data mining is so important in this process, where they look at your habitual behavior over a period of time. Okay, the day, and they have, you know, all they got to do is download anything off any device, or they can say, well, we're updating the iOS tonight. So, you know, me, myself, it doesn't bother me, because I'm like this. I don't have the time to track people, okay? I just, that's just not something that I get my rocks off of. So if that's what, I know that they have ulterior motives for doing that, but that's just not my thing. But, you know, this is very effective in their system of control, okay? And also to block Black progress. Then there is qualitative classification. This is the classification of data based on description or qualitative characteristics such as region, caste, gender, education, etc. Okay, so again, we know they classify our people, and we're talking about from a societal perspective, based on all these things. And that's why we're going to revisit Willie Lynch real quick, because this qualitative classification is very important to our people. This is at the seat of our extreme consumerism, okay? Because the things that we put value on, we did not shape, okay? That's changing, but the fact of the matter is it has had a very serious ADHD type. It has had a very serious effect on our people, okay? And then the last of the four types of classification is quantitative. And this classification of data is on the basis of the characteristics such as age, height, weight, income, etc. And that can be measured in quantity. So you see, all of these things are used with the propaganda, as well as the classification. And then there's also the capitalism and what they tell us, and that's why I always say we live according to a feudalism system. We don't live according to a capitalism system. And they have had this since, you know, the European days in Europe. They have had this system, and they have still used this system, even though they call it by a different name. So first you have the king, which provides the money, an army, and bestows the land that they have taken, usually by war, to the lords or the nobles. Okay. And so the lords, who basically are the wealthy people in this country, okay, or whatever country they're in, and they all know, they just like when they did the redlining in housing, where you know, they had the different color codes, the green, yellow, and the red. That's where we were the red, okay, people of color, mainly black folks, black and brown folks. But we know where this comes from. So this system, you have the international bankers, the major corporations, the CEOs, all these people are lords. And they're the ones that really own the land. And then you have the knights. They provide military protection, law enforcement. They run the corporations on a middle management level, you know. So they actually, the knights are the ones that enforce the laws of the lords, who are beholden to the Luciferians, the king. And then now they have leveled the playing field where the middle class is now part of the peasants and serfs class. Okay, and the peasants and serfs are actually the ones that they are bound to labor and work in the manors, which is also the agricultural aspect of the land for the lords. The other thing about capitalism, the reason why this never existed for us in its totality, and why they were always able to control us, is when you talk about capitalism, you're talking about the ideology of a free and open market. But Black people have never been a part of a free and open market. One of the reasons for this is the other cultures that came here and made a beeline to the Black community to build generations of wealth for their descendants. Basically, they would drive 25 miles outside of where your businesses were, and before they spend money with us. And you know, I always think about something that Dr. Claude Anderson said a long time ago. He said that we better learn that capitalism is a team sport, okay? And that racism is a race, okay? And you have to be team Black. And this is a concept we do. It's like we're almost ashamed to embrace our Blackness. Whereas when we were growing up, we were proud. Like, I'm Black and I'm proud, you know. You know what I'm saying? And so it wasn't an issue for us. And we never had an issue with claiming that. The other thing is this thing about individualism. And in America, you will never build anything individually, okay? This is why, you know, they teach Black people that the value of you being close to their system and living up to their standards is when you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So you spend the majority of your time trying to prove that you're worthy of knighthood. Okay, that's where we have made our biggest mistake. And see, a lot of this goes back to what I was saying earlier about we've got to decide whether we're going to deal as a race of people, as a nationality, okay, or a culture. Because the real thing is that your nationality doesn't necessarily mean, and we know this, and this is why Black people and Black women in particular know this lesson. Because something is said or put out there, and we put our trust in you like we have always done, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to uphold that. Okay. So when you talk about nationality, if you put your nationality over race, but yet your people are being discriminated against, what sense does that make, regardless to where you are in the diaspora? And then it's culture, you know. So within the national structure, because Black people are a de facto nation, okay? The other thing was, you know, and I you know, this is something that people don't want to wrap their heads around, but the churches back in the early 1700s and 1800s, they were always near the auction block. Okay, but what has happened now is the so-called Christian charity and morality has stifled Black economic progress. One of the reasons for that is because you know, we've been taught that being a good Christian means to spend your money with everyone. And see, these are the things that now that we have real leadership that's showing people how it's supposed to be done, then now we don't have to, so now when you look at the fact of why do we, consumerism, okay, why do we spend hundreds of millions of dollars just on Pepsi, Air Jordans, and Gucci? So when I was saying how they classify us, this is how they take our behavior, mainly based on consumerism. And when we go into the 9 areas of human activity, we're going to shed more light on this. Now, what I want to do right now is I want to go back to the Willie Lynch theory, okay? And the reason I want to go back to that, okay, is because on social media, they have the ability to have people through, you know, different things like TikTok, YouTube, all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram. They have the ability to put out information. Okay, let's put it that way. And so the thing is one of the things that they are doing with when they classify you is they're data mining at the same time. Okay, we showed you the 4 different types. Okay, and so let's revisit the Willie Lynch letter, because the other thing too is in order for us to move forward, okay, now we always get in this habit of this savior mentality. And boy, the thing I love about this young brother is he has the wisdom beyond his years. Okay, I love that. This is one of the tricks our people fall for. Each one of us have, okay, the ability to do what he's doing on whatever level that's why I always like to say, grow where you are planted. Don't you put everything on this brother. He's not a savior based on these narratives you have been taught. Okay, he has a lot on his shoulders. We know what's going on. Black folks know what's going on. We try to educate other people, but so be it. Sometimes, I remember one of my brothers saying this. Sometimes you really can't elevate until you go all the way down to the bottom. Or like the old people used to say, you either got to sink or swim. Okay. So now this is the real power of division. And this is what we face. And I'm going to give an example. Wherever you are as a Black individual, okay, you have to decide whether you are going to be classify yourself with your race, regardless of where they are, and all these different names that you guys come up with for us, or if you're gonna make it which is part of their divide and conquer, they'll pay you to keep this nonsense going. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. To them, you still the N-word, okay? You can fool yourself all you want to. And so sometimes it takes, or a lot of times, you to get your end card wake-up call, and then then you're able to move forward. So here's the real power of division that is still in effect today. And this was way back in 1712 on the banks of the James River. Willie Lynch, a slave owner, delivered a speech in which he called a foolproof method to control slaves. And he said this foolproof method was unflappable because he had used it himself and he had great success. He said that you have to focus and highlight on the differences between each slave. Okay. Let me say that again. He said that you have to focus on the differences and highlight the differences of each slave. And boy, when you go through this list, I just got a few of them. But when you go through it, boy, you sure can see this effect on our people. We can deny this all we want, okay? But this is a fact. The thing is we need to acknowledge this and say, how are we going to deal with this? And move on from this, okay? And when we go through the 9 areas of human activity, then we're going to see how this is done. So he said, use fear or paranoia, distrust and envy for control purposes. Highlight and show them their differences in a negative light. Now that's very, very important. So now you know that this is a deliberate act, okay? We know this is a deliberate act. And we know that this individual, this act was done in his own words for it to harm our people spiritually, mentally, and physically in a lot of cases. For it should. He said between 300 and 1,000 years. So here are some of the ones I just wrote down. He said age. He put the old, you know what they called us, against the young ones. Their color, whether they were light skinned or dark skinned, because there are all types. I've seen Black people in Akibalon with blue eyes. I've seen the albinos. I've seen all kind of different. I even saw a couple, a Black African couple. They had one white twin and one black twin. So our people need to start looking at this head on, okay? Because the other thing some of the other things they did was your hair, your natural hair, they call kinky, and then you put some kind of negative, connotation to it. Sex, the male versus the females, we certainly see that today. That is a fact. The height, believe it or not, the weight. I saw a meme the other day where one of our brothers was saying something derogatory about one of our sisters that was a little heavy. All right, that's fine. Gonna give somebody advice to help uplift them, that's fine. But, you have been taught, and one of the reasons, again, staying with our topic, how the Luciferians control our people and stop black progress, and all areas, not just economics, okay, is you'll notice that the people that are responsible for the negative things that are said about our culture, they're the ones they put. So Lance, if you'll put that picture of the TVs on there for me with the TV heads. So the other, there, and this one really got me because I know how our people were taught about this, their position on the plantation, whether they were, the field hands or what Malcolm called them, or the house hands, okay? So the thing about it, not just that, but when the slaves, whenever they met up in the regions that they were at, the size of your plantation. So the slaves even, they felt a sense of pride when their plantation, believe it or not, was bigger than other slaves' plantation. And I thought about that because, that's how they definitely got us spot on with that one. The size of the plantation you live on. Distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than admiration. And trust, love, and respect should only be given to your masters. All right, so let's go into the 9 areas of human activity, and let's look at this, okay? The way they divide and conquer us in every area of human activity, we're going to start with economics. Actually, we're going to do economics, education, and entertainment. We're going to do all 9 areas, and we're going to break them up in 3s. All right, so we're going to focus on economics, education, and entertainment first. So the definition of economics is of, relating to, or based on the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. The products and resources that satisfy your needs and wants. So I'm going to read this again because this is very important, because there are several words that we're going to look at that will define how Black progress is blocked. Economics of, relating to, or based on the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. So when you are prohibited to have your own production plants, like this brother, Ibrahim Traore, knows that you cannot be independent if you have other people producing your needs and wants. Okay? Where are you going to get toilet paper from? Because we don't produce it. Where are you going to go? I was talking to somebody about a year ago, I did a video with Lance about, I had this dream where I saw these like 8 or 9 foot robots standing in front of all the grocery stores, with like AR-15s or whatever. And anytime black folks came up to the markets, the supermarkets, to purchase anything, they told them they couldn't come in. They said, even with your money is no good here. I don't know if they had money or cards or whatever they had. And, you know, and then I think Lance said in responses that there's going to come a time people are going to be breaking in people's houses, be $5,000 on the table, and they want to get to your refrigerator because there ain't going to be no food to buy. So all of these things now, and unfortunately, it's going to be our own people that's going to sabotage the production of the plants, their banks, all of the things you need to run a nation independently. And I remember Dr. John Henry Clark used to talk about this. Okay, what if you do get land? What if you do get reparations? What you gonna do with it? And see, we need to realize something. Here's another thing that's opening the eyes of black people here in America, okay, is that, okay, we need to partner with a Kibalon, okay, with the people, okay, it should be race first, nationality, then culture. That's why you're spent upside down. Your culture, your nationality, and then your race on the bottom. And see, this way of thinking now that we have a real blueprint, is very critical, okay? Distribution lines. My niece, I was talking to her the other night, who was, she was a supply sergeant when she was in, Iraq? And I was just talking to her about, you know, how one of the main strategies is if somebody cut off your supply line, you know, that could be spelled defeat for whatever your mission is at that time. And so it's very important to keep those supply lines going. And so this is one of the strategies too as well, is they cut your supply lines, and if they control the supply lines and the production and distribution of it, and all you're doing, like we do here in America, is the consumption of goods and services. Because let's face it, the products and the resources that satisfy our needs and wants, we have to have them, okay? That is a reality. So this is a major way that they stop or block black progress, economic progress, is they'll let you have all the Gucci's you want, the Air Jordans. You can buy as much Pepsi as you want. But if you take some of that $430 billion tithe money that our people have spent over the last 30 years, we could have been built that. If black folks could have been built an empire in America, man. We are the most educated, and by the way, thank you, Dr. Kojo. We are the most educated people, or a black class of people, that we have ever had. And you know, I always like to say this. I always like to brag on our ancestors. They walked off those plantations, even after that Jim Crow and all of that. All they had was their pride. They couldn't read or write. They were what people considered illiterate, but no, they wasn't. They had celestial language, and they built more than all of the so-called educated people we have, me included, ever have. And the reason for that is because we have been miseducated. And Carter G. Woodson was right. Okay. You know, when you go back because when truth is revealed to you, you go back and look at our ancestors, man, they were brilliant. They had the roadmap, but we were so busy chasing these folks, thinking that if we wearing Gucci and we acting like them and we on TV and we saying all these things about our people, that's, you know, and then living, the sad part is we're living out the things that the lies that they tell about our people, then we live it out in our behavior or inappropriate behavior. And this is another means of control. So all of these things work against us because we in ourselves. So here's the other thing too I like about this young brother. You're not going to be able to blame nobody, okay? See, this is real independence. You're not going to be able, and so this too has been a handicap for our people in America. But the one thing, like I said, our people get beat up a lot, okay, by our own people. As crazy as that is to believe, but I'm going to give our people credit, okay? We woke up. That's why they always try to put us down and make some kind of derogatory. Every time we progress in any kind of way, even if it's your pineal gland opening and your awakening, which is actually happening. I don't care how much you demonize the word woke, that don't mean nothing. Our people's pineal glands are open in 2025. And you see your real power. Okay, so if you're not going to produce or distribute anything, you can control the logistics, believe it or not. Okay, the problem is, and we're going to move into from economics to education and entertainment. So education is the process of receiving or giving systemic instructions. Okay, let me read that again. Education is the process, according to Webster's dictionary, of receiving or giving systemic. In other words, all of the institutions that you go to, you're either receiving and somebody's giving you instructions. And those instructions don't come from you. And not only that, those instructions are given to keep you at a certain level of growth and development. And you know, that's why Dr. Amos Wilson talked about the prison to school to prison pipeline. Because one of the real things that we did, and I noticed with the Latino brothers here on the West Coast, all of them have skills, but our people are educated. Okay. Now I get it. Like Curtis Mayfield said, it's the educated people that run the lives of our society, making up the rules and holding up the schools. Okay. So I get that part. But I remember when we were in high school, part of the curriculum was we had to take, they called it wood shop wood or something like that. We had to learn to build cabinets. We had to learn to deal with pipes. We were doing all of that. This has also been a calculated effort to replace us in terms of taking away Black economic power. Now, they used the same method of divide and conquer because they put us against brown people. We can clearly see that, okay? We can clearly see this. So this is another, and so what happens is when you receive the education that we receive in the institutions that we go to in these systemic instructions. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say that one of the things that happened was so Black people and Black children are kinesthetic learners. Out of the four types of learning styles, visual, auditory, and reading and writing, and kinesthetic, that means that they don't need any directions or they don't need any instructions, okay? They can look at something, and I had a perfect example. My nephew, when he took apart the TV at 10 years old and the radio, he didn't have no instructions and he put it back. And I've worked with kids in special education that had disability, and then they started saying that they had behavior disorders because they would get bored after they was like, oh yeah, I can solve this, you know. And real learning is student-centered learning, because that means that you are the one that figure out how to solve this issue. But what they did was they classified them as having a behavior disorder or ADHD, so that they can put them on Ritalin medication. And at the time, we didn't see this, okay? But it was very effective. It affected a lot of our boys, but they found out they were geniuses, and they had to come up with this division called gifted and talented. And our boys, many of them excelled in that division. But you see, the point is who's setting the standards by which you're going to live by? If you're independent, you set them. And that is the last hurdle that here in America that we have to cross. Okay. Because let's face it, we have this dynamic where our sisters are the most, or at least amongst our people, are the most educated. And then you have a situation where our males, okay, are being put in situations where they either can't get a higher learning, or they have to follow because the value in our society is put on fiat. It's not put on building, systemic programs or producing and distributing anything. It's mainly consumption, okay? So if we're going to consume something, let's make sure we're the ones that's producing it and distributing it. That's very, very important. That's the next stage. That is really the butterfly stage for our people, because you can't have butterfly conversations with caterpillar people. And this is the dynamics that exist in our community. Okay. And so we get caught up into that. And so we're going to move to entertainment. Entertainment is defined as the art of providing pleasure, recreation, or amusement to people. Now, when we look at the history of our people, you can go back to, what's his name? Django Unchained. No, that's not, Stephen, when he was playing the banjo, but I'm trying to think the ones, the fiddler and Roots. So this is even you look at Sambo, the one that danced for them, Chicken George. You look at all of these personalities, the shadows of the plantation. And although they exist in a different way now, they're basically the same. So we still have the same fundamental relationship with our slave masters that we have today. A perfect example of this is ownership in sports, okay? Look how they did Deion Sanders' son. Everybody knows he should have been the #1 pick in the NFL. I mean, even Donald Trump said something about that one. So, you know, we know that at the ownership level in sports, they still collaborate against us when they want our young men to bow down to them like they're gods or something. When we know that Black people in the entertainment field, whether it's in recreation, in sports, or if it's in, you know, what I call amusement, okay, or providing some type of pleasure, they are getting paid billions of dollars, right? Black folks. But we know that in America, you only make 1/5 of what you're producing. So what does that mean? Black folks are producing trillions of dollars, like we always have done every year, for these same owners or oppressors, that the same playbook is being used on our people. Okay? But you can buck dance and do whatever, but they're still going to penalize. And you know, the other thing, when you look at his father, okay, all right, now I know something about this because I come from, you know, a sports family that's been in the spotlight. They wanted to send a message to a proud Black father, Deion Sanders, because there's still a lot of bigotry and racism in the world of sports, as hard as that is to believe, especially on the collegiate level. But you take a man like Deion Sanders, who is a Hall of Famer, NFL champion, and you know, he has this persona, which rightfully so he deserved and earned, by the way. Nobody bestowed a title on him. He earned it. And he deserves, his sons deserve to be treated with respect. Okay? Just like the situation with LeBron James. This is insane. Here you have a Black man that's leading his family, that's accomplished all of this. Okay, yeah, there needs to be some things here. We have got to start. This is frustrating, man. Have his son come into the NFL. Do you know that in this country, that the people that control the production and distribution and the corporations, they bring their families, their brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, fathers, sons. Did you know that? So here you have a brother that's bringing his son in the NBA, and all we can think about is that you don't like his personality, LeBron? Or because he earned the fiat that they got? Come on, man. Come on. Because a lot of what's happening with us, and I'm talking about Blacks in America now, is we have got to look at this Willie Lynch situation, and we've got to say no more, and we've got to start speaking against this. Now, in this entertainment field, several things are happening. Not only are they making trillions of dollars, whenever our brothers try to control their masters, what do? They snuff them out. Okay. So I want to read a script. Thank you, Creatrix. I want to read a script before I say, well, let me just close out on the entertainment aspect. We're producing trillions of dollars because ain't nobody going to pay you billions of dollars if they not, you know, this is how the shadows of the plantation is still here. They're going to have you to bow down, and then you're going to produce this money for them. And they're not going to pay you no reparation. The other thing, too, is they take that 10% of our culture that is tearing down our culture based on these Luciferian and vampiric characteristics that they have been taught, because it's not in you as an original black man. That is not your nature. Okay, you have a soul. Okay, you need to find out what that means. But when you sell your soul, then you have a problem. So to me, this was a what do they call it? A humiliation ritual for Deion Sanders and his brothers. His sons, which wasn't even necessary. All right, this was not necessary, And then they get our people, oh, you ain't running shit, that kind of. We are the ones now that's perpetuating this. And, I'm behind our brothers in Africa, man. Hey, that is really, to be honest with you, man, there are no words for that. That is the blueprint. So I'm grateful that our people have a blueprint, man, because the same thing with our people here that they do with some the puppets they have there in Africa, the leaders, is that they one of the things they do is they pay them off, okay? And like I was saying, they take the worst 10%, they know going to degrade along with the coons, our brilliant culture that we have and continue to excel despite the challenges and the direct opposition and assault on our people. We continue to excel. And I applaud our people for that. We're not going to keep beating our people down in the ground like they have people doing on YouTube. We ain't going to keep doing that. We're moving beyond that. We're in the butterfly stage now. Okay. So we don't let caterpillars dictate and structure our future. That's only done by the creative spirit, not a man or a woman. Okay. So yeah. So I have this script that I want to read because I've come to the conclusion, and I talk to people about different things, and it does help our people when they can see things through the eyes of these scripts, okay? And on top of that, because we know it came out of the concepts of our people coming forth by day and by night, or they want to call the Book of the Dead, we don't know, and from the Book of Stones. We know that there's a significance to what is being said, okay? So this script defines, because people ask me, what are you, even though they know, can you explain what the Lucifer? Okay, I want to let you. You're going to figure this out yourself. Okay, just think. The thing is, we've been taught to hear these. Interpret these narratives based on somebody else's, or I should say, to regurgitate it based on someone else's perception of this and comprehension. But I found a good one to describe that. 2 Timothy 3:1-5. This know also, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. And get this, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such, turn away. And that's what this brother is doing. And then verse 9, but they shall proceed no further, for their folly will be manifest to all men. Okay, so when I'm talking about, that is the characteristic. Now, you know, a lot of people say, well, okay, well, I'm just being honest. I see more of this energy and spirit in America, or even in Cleveland, than I see the so-called, spirit that you say, in your religion, whatever it is. Okay. It's like, okay, what's the difference between you? Let's say you hire somebody and you tell them all these things are going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Or somebody, you go and you work for somebody and they tell you all this is going to happen, blah, 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 blah. And guess what? None of it happens. Okay. None of it happens. So if throughout our 400 plus years here, that these scripts that they have been quoting to you and reading to you have manifested what I just read to you, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with black folks? I'm not saying, like I always say, you can worship an ant if you want to. I don't care. But now we're harming ourselves when we're not focusing. I don't care what I want to know if you want to build, okay, together. Because somehow people have convinced you, which we have never been. The only time we have been able to do that is when our people couldn't read or write, but they still produce they produce their own products, they distribute them, they had their own towns. And we saw what happened. The good Christians burnt them down and unalived them. They put their towns underwater. So this ain't nothing Neil Frazier is saying. This is part of our history that nobody is going to erase. I don't care who it is. Okay? No. That's not going to happen to our people. Our ancestors have. Okay. Now, the next three areas we're going to look at is labor, law, and politics. We're going to go through this kind of quickly here. Labor, physical work. However, we know it's not just physical work. Labor also provides a sense of self-worth and self-esteem. Because I don't care how you want to look at this, we live in a patriarchal society. And what that means is if a man cannot provide for his family, which a lot of I'm not making no excuses, I'm just giving facts. If they cannot provide, they're going to go out and they're going to get something done. And if you ever been hungry for more than 2 days or live out in them elements, you can relate to what I'm saying. See, we try to play these games that these Luciferians have taught you. And then you trying to, as crazy as it is, live up to it. No, you're not like them. And the sooner you realize that, the better. Now, whoever they are, that's who they are. You know, I'm not saying trying to put anybody down in any sense of the word. I am saying that black people have to rally around who we are and take what we have been given now and then make this happen and stop because somebody then is not wearing Gucci or riding around in a Mercedes. I mean, not a Mercedes now, what is it, Lamborghinis? Okay, and all those things are nice to have. But ask Floyd Mayweather right now about that, okay? Because see, whenever our brothers get to a certain level in that fake world, they expose them before the world as criminals, when we know the real criminals are. Now, I'm not saying what he did, some of his own family, you know, they said, okay, yeah, this is what he did. It was wrong. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that looking at all those high-end cars and looking at all the money over the years that he, you know, I guess everybody was faked out. I don't know. And they're saying that he's broke or it's never his money. I don't know. It just sounds crazy. The point I'm trying to make is when that becomes your God, then you have lost all sense of living and purpose. And so this is why you're inundated every day. Become a millionaire. Become a millionaire. What does that mean? Then I have to give my allegiance to you. That's what that means. Because whoever feeds you, that's who your allegiance is to, whether you know that or not. Okay. The law. Now, the law, the definition of law is the system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. Now I'm gonna read that again. And statistics are not necessary. We know all the statistics about this. We know the racial profiling. We know what's going on with our brown brothers and sisters. We know what they've been doing to black men in this country for, you know, as long back as we can remember. Okay, the slave catchers. That law is the system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members, which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. See, the problem with this is we have a faction of the law that's the judge, jury, and executioner on the street of black people. This is the problem. Whereas here, you're saying that the system of rules is a particular in a country or community. Well, I should put in of civilized people. I'm going to add that. The system of rules which a particular civilized country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. And see, these penalties are skewed. Okay, this is what we're saying. Most black people are a law-abiding citizen. Like I said, every culture has a bad 10%, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, who knows? The point is you have painted this brush where it excuses the uncivilized behavior against our people. Okay. Now you can go far back to this book that was written without sanctuary. Okay, so, you know, it is what it is. You know, we're not the ones that's trying to change history because we have to live with our history. Not only live with it, we have to live in it because we're still being penalized and our children are being penalized for this. But we know that this law in all its capacity, the judicial system, law enforcement, now we see the military, it's crazy, erasing blood. This is childish, man. This stuff is crazy. If you're talking about moving a nation forward, The people are your greatest resources. So first of all, a great leader has to have the ability to identify the people that's going to help strengthen the nation, not tear it down. So who in their right mind, I should say, who has some kind of spirit, because everybody doesn't have a soul, could sit back and just endorse this? When you have people, the way our system is set up, they elect people from their districts to go and represent the needs of the people in your district. But they go to this cesspool, and then they, you know what they do on people, and it's not enough toilet paper. So, you know, at the end of the day, these are things that Black people, in order for us to continue to rise, that we have to put into motion. Now here we go here. Politics or politics is defined as the activities associated with the governance of a country or other areas, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. Now that's very important what that definition says. Okay, because right here we see what they don't want or like in Black people. It's okay for them, and I ain't gonna say the word I want to say, but the F over people, take away their livelihood, starve their children, put people out on the street. You know, it's okay for them to come together as a party and do this. I don't give a damn what party it is. Okay. But the one that's in power now that's doing it to everybody, it's okay for you to do this, but yet you are trying to stop us from coming together and fighting against this. Now, I say, those counterfeit spirits that you bow down to, you need to go back and tell them Black folks ain't having it. It ain't gonna happen. They're just saying those days are over with. Yeah, and the last three, religion, sex, and war. I'm gonna give the definition, and we're gonna go through it. You know, we already know. So, but religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods, the personal set or a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. See, that's very important, because what we do is, this is how they teach us to pull out certain words and take things out of context. That's how they keep you confused. Okay. No. It is the sum. I'm sorry. It is the belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods, and also a personal set or institutionalized system of, in other words, in the churches and mosques and other places you go to worship, it is an institutionalized system of religious, not just attitudes, okay, not just beliefs, but practices. So you're going to sit here and tell me that we're supposed to call you good Christians when your practices are more closer to the 7 deadly sins than it is to the virtues that you expound in this pseudo religion. No. Because in practice, you're not. In lip service and your attitude and your pompous attitude, and even your beliefs that you try to put on us. Okay. But your practices show a different picture. Let's look at sex. The sum of the structural, functional, and sometimes behavioral characteristics of organisms that distinguishes males and females. I'm going to read that again. The sum of the structural, functional, and sometimes behavioral characteristics of organisms that distinguishes males and females. And I'm going to say this, that this effort to feminize our men is another thing. So real men don't want other men to act as women. So the question is, why is it that you have to have black males in dresses or, doing in feminine behavior? Why is that so important to you, to the Luciferians? Why is that? I mean, I know the answer to that. I'm just putting it out there for everybody. Something to think about. And lastly, war. Which is defined as a state of armed conflict between different nations or states or different groups within a nation or state. Now, I want to preference that a little bit because all warfare, that's why they have what they call the Cold Warfare. All warfare is just not armed conflict in the sense of weaponry, armed physical weapons, okay? It's also, we know that there is some type of, like the Manchurian candidate type of things that can happen to people, all right? We know that there are other forms of conflict between nations. We can see now with this ridiculous tariff or trade war. Everybody knows if China produces the majority of everything, and shout out to China for at least they're telling our people that all the Gucci and all that crap they're spending their money on is throwing it away. Thank you. I give the Chinese prop for that. The other thing too is this Luciferian spirit, they always have you in conflict with everybody. For what? Okay, for what? China is produce your own. There was a time when America was the #1 manufacturing country in the world. So now, instead of trying to regain that status, now you're like a little kid. I'm taking my marbles. I'm leaving. I'm taking my basketball. I ain't playing. You can't play with it no more. We need global leadership. Okay. We need people because the abundance is still on the planet. Okay. We know we have this issue. Again, I applaud this young brother. The resources in the Kivalon is for Africans. Just like the resources on Turtle Island is for Black indigenous, okay? The resources in the Caribbean are to the diaspora, the Tainos, in this sort, and in South America. Okay, so the day has come when our people are standing up and saying no more. We have this right. You did not create us. We have this right. You've been exposed before the world. Again, this conflict between nations, because Black people are a de facto nation, just by the amount of money we generate every year, the trillions of dollars, and the money we spend, 1.9 to 2 trillion. Come on now. Our people, we rightfully so, target corporations that are not, you can play this DEI bullcrap all you want, they ain't got nothing to do with us. Okay. But they use this emotional, and I talk about this in my book, Creator versus God, World War IV, Electromagnetic Warfare. When I wrote it back in 2020, that this day is going to come where this conflict between children of the sun and children of the ice is going to be at its height. Okay. So, you know, at the end of the day, people get angry all they want about stuff. I ain't got time for that no more, man. Honestly, it's time to rise or die. You know, you have to decide what you're going to do. With that, brother, I'm going to close out. I hope he's still around. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got knocked off. Can I access somebody in the chat? Maybe not. Not sure. So one of the things, while I have a little bit of time, is I want to shout out the Scurv Nation. You guys are awesome. You know, I know some of you that I've seen your names over the years. I've seen Mr. Landon Price, and I hate to do this. Not that I hate to do it, but you know, inevitably you're gonna miss somebody. Indigo King, Diane, Riri, Gina, Mr. Kofi, I think it is. But I just want to shout out to you guys for you know, the strength that you give Lance on the platform. You know, one of the things too that our people have to get by is we hold our people at a standard that we don't hold other people at. And the thing is none of us are perfect, okay? But when you have someone that's trying and giving their all, you know, it's important. Oh, yeah, just saying, thank you, Chris, because I thought about a couple of more names. Giant, no, not that one. Strawberry 32. Let's see. I just had it in my mind. But you guys know who you are. You know, and the most important thing is that we continue this fight, and to continue to uphold and uplift each other. That's what I want to say, because it doesn't take anything for you to tear somebody down. Okay. And I'm trying to think of more names, boy, because I know I miss, because it's a lot of you guys. And I have to go back. I know, you know, every Monday we do a lot of shows. We've been doing them for years. And, you know, I see you guys around, and, you know, I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you. A lot of the strength that I have to continue my work is because of you guys. And as I always say, energy works both ways. And if I miss your name, know that I know you're there. You know, I ain't gonna blame it on amnesia or nothing like that. But I see you guys. I know that you're always there. Thanks for the encouraging words. There are guys I know that's right at the top of my head that I'm drawing a blank. Because when I get involved with the information, I kind of get into a zone. So I got to kind of bring that compartment back. if you know what I mean. But yeah, you know, we have to keep fighting because Rone, that's the name that popped up in my head. Because if we don't fight and when I say fight, that means that we have to meet the weapons that are pointed at us. We have to meet this head on. And I know it's hard because, you know, they target us. They use a lot of different, and they use our own people against us. They use a lot of deception and lies and technology. But it's funny, the energy when you're on the right wavelength, and you got the heat going, then it's going to attract what you need. So I don't know what happened to Lance. I got to end the show here. But you guys stay strong. Much love and peace. And look forward to seeing you again next Monday. Okay.